I've been spending a lot of time in VR and in Onward particularly. I love the milsim feel and the smooth and gun mechanics and the quick time to kill and the no respawn mechanics, and I really enjoyed those. However, it's certainly not a perfect game, and one aspect of the game that I think could really use some love to make it shine are the night mechanics. In particular, I want to talk about the current balance of night vision when compared to running without night vision. And I think the best way to do this is to break down all the problems with the current balance of night vision and other night mechanics, and then go into some of my ideas and how I think we could address those issues and improve upon the entire night mechanic system. So to start, one of the biggest complaints I hear about night vision is that there's no point. It's the same thing as running a day map, except everything's green and you're forced to use one more point off your class. And that is absolutely true. I completely agree with that. I think the issue here is that there's no downside to not running night vision. They're too cheap. They're too effective, and at this point, I think night vision should be a buff. When you run night vision, you should have an advantage over somebody who doesn't run it. But with the current meta of everybody running night vision on night maps, because it's so cheap and so available, it's not really an advantage. Running night vision just puts you on the same level, and I want to change that. I would like to see that changed anyway. Um, the best way I think to do this is to nerf night vision. Yes, I know that seems ridiculous that the best way to buff night vision to give it an advantage is to nerf it, but hear me out. I think everybody would agree that running night vision definitely makes it easier to identify enemies and see targets at different or at a distance. You get more contrast, you get better lit environment. It's just better all the way around. So how do I plan on buffing it by nerfing it? Well, by convincing other people not to run it. Um, so the best way to do this, hands down, I think, is to make it more expensive. I think right now the fact that being 1 point was, I think, very much intentional by Downpour, just so that it is available to everybody. However, that means that everybody runs it, and you kind of run into the issue of what's the point of a night map then if everybody can see just as if it was daytime. So making it more expensive would definitely make it a more conscious decision whether to run it or not to run it versus just that, oh, hey, we're running a night map. All right, let me get rid of my flashbang. Let me get rid of my smoke, and we can continue playing the map just like we would if it was a day map. If you made it more expensive, 2 points I don't think is enough. I think 2 points it would. I don't think that would stop enough people from running it. 3 points might be good, maybe even four. Honestly, it's kind of hard to say because at 4 points, that's really expensive. That's half your class. I think you would really need to rework your entire point system for your class, which I've got some ideas on, but that's a topic for a separate video. So, as I said, the first step is definitely to make night vision more expensive. I think 3 points is a good spot. 2 points, like I said, is too cheap. 4 points, you're getting too expensive. That's like half your class. So 3 points is a good spot. Now, if somebody wants to write night vision, it's no longer get rid of their smoke. It's get rid of their smoke and their frag. So you want night vision, you want to be able to see people, you want to be able to identify people from a distance on your night map, you're going to have no other utility. Or, hey, I'm going to get rid of my suppressor. I want to have night vision be able to identify people from a distance really easily. Okay, but now you're going to be more easily pinpointed by your shots. You're going to be more visible in the dark because of your muzzle flare. I think all those mechanics work really well. It should be a trade-off. And it should be a significant trade-off because night vision is a significant advantage. And I know that a lot of people probably think that night maps aren't that dark. And they're not. They're not too bad. You can see really well. However, there are definitely some dark corners in these maps. Dark corners that definitely need to be checked. And especially if you're playing against Volk, because Volk's black uniforms make them blend in really, really well. I'm going to throw on screen here a little clip I did of me walking through suburbia without night vision and using a flashlight to highlight some really dark corners. And those are corners you would have to check, and you'd have to check them with a flashlight if you don't have night vision. And the flashlight doesn't have that much range. You got to get fairly close. But I'll discuss it a little bit more later. But as you'll see, I'm going through and highlighting these corners, and they're dark. Enemies can sit there. Enemies are likely to sit there, so you have to check them. And even if you can see a figure sitting there without the light, without a flashlight or without night vision, you have to be able to identify, is this a friendly or is this an enemy? And with such a quick time to kill and with friendly fire enabled, it's really important that you're able to identify that. Communication can help if you go to comms, make call outs, but playing with randoms, that's not always possible, and comms aren't always the best. In the same clip, you'll see me walk through the map again with night vision, and you'll see how much clearer these corners are. And it's so much easier to see from much further away. You don't have to worry about clicking on and off your flashlight, because the fact is that a flashlight does give you away, so you probably don't want to leave it on all the time. I do want to add that while editing this, I noticed that these dark corners I was shining a flashlight on are much lighter looking at them on a monitor. These could be my monitor settings. I play natively on the Quest 2, so if you play from PC, you may not have an issue. If you play on a different headset, it might not be as dark. So just take that with a grain of salt, exactly how dark they are, but it does show that they are darker corners that need to be checked, and they're harder to check without night vision, and the flashlight helps if you can get within range. But the other thing I want to talk about is, in order to make it so people don't run night vision as much, you have to have an alternative. And the alternative here is obviously the flashlight. The flashlight is a very useful tool in Onward, but not really for illumination. It does illuminate, but its range isn't that great. I think one thing it needs is a buff to range. You could maybe even focus it a little bit more so it doesn't cover quite as big of an area, but make it so it shines a little bit brighter from a little bit further away. And I'd also leave the cost of the flashlight at 1 point. So you have the option to run the really good night vision for 3 points. Or you can run a much cheaper alternative, but not quite as good illumination tool, the flashlight, for 1 point. And then you could still carry 2 flashbangs or 2 smokes or a frag or something like that, or body armor. Whatever you might want that costs 2 points. Another illumination tool within Onward is the flare gun, and the flare gun's actually pretty good. However, I still think it needs buffed. It needs a little bit of love to really make it shine, no pun intended, in place of night vision. So if you haven't used the flare, it's actually a pretty good counter for night vision. If you look at a flare while wearing night vision, there's this really bright glow that you can't see through. It almost acts like a smoke grenade. But only for night vision. You take off the night vision, it's just this red glowing ball. It doesn't really obscure your vision. The way I would buff it is I'd give it more ammo. Maybe 3 shots. I think 3-4 shots would be okay. And I think I could be wrong, but I think it costs 2 or 3 points to equip, and I think there should just be 1. You can't kill anybody with it, as far as I know. So make it 1 point. Give it 3 shots. And then make it so that it actually illuminates when it's in the sky and when it's laying on the ground. And I know that might be difficult. I know there was I started playing after the 1.18 update, and so I know there was a massive downgrade, and those kind of lighting mechanics may not be possible on Quest. I don't know. But if so, that'd be really nice to see if you shoot it up in the air, it illuminates an area, or if you even just shoot it on the ground and it glows. If you can't do that, then maybe you make it a little bit bigger of a glowing circle for night vision, just, since it can't be really used for illumination, then just make it an even bigger counter to night vision. And make it cheaper, give it more shots. I think that'd be a really solid counter for that. The final idea I had for making adjustments to night vision is in regards to flashbangs. I think they should be more effective against people wearing night vision. I think this would be a good counter for night vision. And at the same time, it would be a good buff to flashbangs. Flashbangs seem kind of, lacking in this game. I'm not saying they're not good. They're very good if you land them on somebody. But if you use a frag, you can kill them instead of just blinding them, but a frag costs an additional point. However, a smoke grenade does much of the same thing. In fact, smokes are used very often, especially if you watch VR Master Leagues. They're used all the time. They do use flashbangs, but flashbangs are usually, I guess it's a little more anecdotal, but from my experience, flashbangs are only really used if you have 1 extra point in your class and you already have a smoke, or you don't need to run a smoke. You choose flashbang. But anyway, I think the best way to do this would be if you throw it at somebody wearing night vision and it goes off, they're blinded, just like normal. You could increase the range at which you get blinded, and I've heard people talk about in lobbies how if you're wearing night vision, you do get blinded from further away by a flashbang. But I did some tests, and I didn't find this to be true. I found that the range at which you're blinded by flashbang grenades does not change whether it's daytime, nighttime, night vision, or no night vision. It's all the same from what I was able to tell. So maybe increase the range that you're blinded with night vision by 25%, 10%. I don't think you need a lot, just a little bit. But the really big change I'd want to see with night vision and flashbangs is I would like to see where that grenade goes off to leave a little glowing sort of after image burn to the user's, not literally burn to the user's retinas, but into the screen. And kind of sits there and glows. If you've ever played Tarkov and been hit by a flashbang grenade, that's what I'm thinking. Now, this would only last a few seconds, 3, 4 seconds, maybe 5. Uh, but how it would work would be if the grenade's really close to you and it goes off, with the flashbang grenade, that is, you get this really large glowing ball kind of left in your vision for a minute. However, if it's thrown really far away, because it's further away, it's really small. So what this could be used is if somebody's at night and okay, I want to cross the street, but I'm safe from anybody not wearing night vision because it's too dark and too far away, they're not gonna be able to see me. However, somebody wearing night vision can't. They don't have to try to flashbang the person. They can just toss a flashbang out in the middle of the street. If somebody's watching it, the flashbang's going to go off. They're going to be left with this little glowing after image kind of in their screen where they're looking, and that's going to disorient them enough, or at least obscure their vision just enough for that person to run across the street. Of course, this needs to be worked in and balanced. I think 2 or 3 seconds would probably be enough for that after image to stay there. And again, I think it should only affect those with night vision. Just as another sub counter to it, so that people who don't want to run night vision have ways of countering night vision wearers, but people who want to run night vision still have these advantages of being able to see from really far away and identify enemies very easily. Anyway, these have just been my ideas on some different ways to rework some of the night mechanics within Onward to make it actually different rather than just tactical. I really enjoy the night mechanics. However, they feel lackluster and kind of pointless after a while, and I'd like to see some depth to them. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below.